Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Paul Rosenblatt, and I'm the founding director of Creator Square, and I'm here with V. Ondra, who is our newest maker in residence. Hi, V.
Hello.
And before we get started, I have a few logistics to discuss. Some thank yous, and then we can start our conversation to meet our newest maker. So Creator Square is a maker's residency based in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. We launched this year, and as of this month, we have 3 of the 4 makers in residence studios filled. So we're still looking for new makers to fill the building and our program. So if you are interested in joining or any additional information about Creator Square, both in terms of becoming a maker in residence or helping out at Creator Square, you can contact me, Paul Rosenblatt, at paul@springboarddesign.net, or you can go to our website, which is creatorsquarejohnstown.com. And we're also on Instagram as Creator Square Johnstown. I also have some thank yous to do because this program was envisioned and supported by many organizations, including Carnegie Mellon University, the Community Foundation for the Alleghenies, JARI, Southern Alleghenies Planning and Development Commission, Startup Alleghenies, Discover Downtown Johnstown Partnership, Entrepreneurial Alchemy, and the Johnstown Redevelopment Authority. Funding sources for the project include the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, the United States Economic Development Administration, the U.S. Department of Defense, Cambria County Government, the City of Johnstown, the Community Foundation for the Alleghenies, and private donations. Okay, I think that covers it. So that's all the official business, V. Thanks for joining me this evening and doing this. I know this is when I talk with makers, and I'm an architect and an artist by training. When I talk to makers, I have quickly found out that makers are most comfortable making things, less comfortable talking about making things. So
yeah, same.
So we'll do the best we can this evening. But I'm especially delighted to welcome V this evening because V is a sort of a second career maker, and they have another life before joining Creator Square. And so I'm going to put V on the spot here and talk a little bit about their life before joining Creator Square, what motivated them to join Creator Square, and what they're making. And I'm also going to ask V to send us to their Instagram, because I know that there's an Instagram that has the work on it, and we'll sort of unpack all of that in the next half hour or so. Okay, right. So let's start at the beginning. V, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And how did you come to this place today?
I grew up in the capital region of New York State, so outside Albany. I lived there for most of my life, and then went to the University of Pittsburgh for college. I graduated in 2009, so that was sort of in the middle of our first recent recession. I had degrees in film studies with a focus on photography and Japanese language. And I had originally intended to look into being a photographer, but I just had no idea where to go after I graduated, and things were looking pretty dire, at least on that front. So I just kind of stayed where I was. I had an office job that I stayed at for quite a while and continued to stay with that company for about 12 years total. And then finally in 2019, I decided it's like now or never, you know, like I'm never gonna, there's never gonna be a good time to quit my job and become an artist, but why not now? And so I had been taking jewelry classes and blacksmithing classes at Touchstone Center for Crafts. and my cat has joined.
Oh, that's great. What's your cat's name?
His name is Syrup.
Syrup. That's great. Great.
So I'd been taking classes at places like Pittsburgh Center for the Arts and Touchstone Center for Crafts. And yeah, in 2019, I finally thought I had enough of office work and thought, let's try it. So I took some time off, focused on acquiring tools and studio equipment. And then I worked at a jewelry store for a little bit. I worked for Studebaker Metals in Pittsburgh, doing some contract work that year. And that was really fun. It was just sort of getting some experience in the field. And then, yeah, then here we are. Well, 2020, we all know what happened then, and things got a little bit messed up. And then in 2021, this past May, I was a resident artist at Touchstone for 1 month. And during that time was when this opportunity came up. And so my lease was up in July, and I thought, why not? Let's try to do something new. So
That's
here
awesome.
I am.
That's awesome. So while people are listening to us talk about you and your work and Creator Square, can you tell us where your Instagram, how they can find your work on Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram is at Eyes Like Thieves. So all one word, Eyes Like Thieves. And yeah, I've got photos of my work there. Still got to work on a personal website. I'm still new to a lot of this sort of thing. So right now it just exists on Instagram.
Cool. So maybe while people are looking for those things, or even if they're not, can you talk a little bit about what this work looks like? Maybe you create some word pictures of what this work is like, what inspires it, where did it come from?
So I've mostly so far worked with copper and silver. And I like to do etching on copper. And so what I've been doing a lot of is making prints of leaves onto copper sheets and then etching them and then cutting them out and turning them into jewelry. So you'll see a lot of that on my Instagram so far. I've done some other experimental things. I really like working with patinas, and I like that copper takes a lot of different chemical patinas very well. So it's like a fun chemistry experiment, putting different chemicals on it or heating it up different ways. And that's one of the things that I really like about metalworking, is that you can manipulate it quite a lot beyond just the shape. And yeah, I like to try to use as much of the material as possible. So I've also done work, like used the scraps to make bales and even some other like abstract shapes. So I keep all my scraps, and I honestly find a lot of inspiration from the scrap bin, because it kind of gives you a starting point if it's already in a weird shape.
What is a bale? Is that something that I should know what it means?
It's just a little the thing that connects like a pendant to, it's the little like loop that connects the pendant to a necklace.
Okay. Well, I've learned something this evening. So I think you told me before that your connection with nature goes back to your childhood.
Yeah, where I grew up, I had a whole set of woods behind my house, and I spent a lot of time out there just sort of playing in the woods and enjoying being out there by myself. So I still feel like at home there. And when I moved to Johnstown, that was one of the things that I really appreciated. I moved here from Pittsburgh, so I was in the city and there was no trees on my street or anything. And so it's really nice to be in a more natural setting, and I find that really inspiring. So that's what I am interested in sort of representing with my work, is nature shapes.
That's great. We're really excited at Creator Square about you, because you you were living in Lawrenceville, and you picked up and moved to Johnstown, bought a house in Johnstown.
Yeah.
You're currently, I guess that's where you are today, and currently fixing it up. And, the mission of Creator Square, as you know, is really focused on helping makers whose artistic practices are pretty mature to transform their artistic practices into business practices. And so we try to provide both inspiration and community, but also some concrete tools like business coaching and other kinds of things, availability of materials and other resources. So we're excited that you're sort of like a living example of somebody who is, not just talking the talk, but walking it. What are some of the challenges that you're facing as a new business owner? Well, let me back up for a second. Have you gotten to the point of actually registering your business and setting up a business plan?
Not quite yet.
Well,
There's so much.
If you don't mind, yeah, if you don't mind, because I know you're working with Blake Flegel at Jari right now,
Yeah.
who's your business coach. If you don't mind talking a little bit about that process, I think that folks would be interested in sort of like what it takes to do this, to take an artistic practice, which you've been working on and focused on, and think about it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, I'm still in the early stages of that, I would say. I feel like I have a little bit of a just sort of casual knowledge of those sorts of things based on my previous job. My old office job was in a financial firm, so I got a lot of experience with budgeting and accounting and things like that. But I haven't really done it for myself on a professional level at this point. So just sort of getting all of that organized is definitely a challenge. Like you said, makers prefer to be making art rather than talking about it or doing business, but that's a necessary evil of the world. So yeah, I still have some more work to do on that regard, but right now I'm kind of focusing on, I'm still getting set up a little bit, getting set up in the house, getting set up in my studio, and focusing on making work, because my first goal is to just have enough things to sell and try to get them into like there's shops in Johnstown and Pittsburgh and other places that will sell artists' work on commission. So that's sort of my first step, or my plan for my first step into it. And then working with Blake and others, we'll see how I can expand from there.
Yeah, that's great. And since you mentioned it, is there a way for people to purchase your work right now? Do they go to your website and DM you, or
yeah,
your Instagram rather, and DM you?
Yeah, if somebody was interested, they could DM me on Instagram. Again, I don't have a official website or shop set up, but I wouldn't refuse an offer or an interest in commissions or something like that.
Well, the whole purpose of introducing you to the community like this is to help you to build your business. So
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if people become interested in your work and want to purchase it and wear it, right? Let's talk a little bit about technology and the kind of materials and equipment you use and some of the things you're interested in sort of expanding into. You want to just start with some basics, like what materials you like working with, and create a picture for us about, I'm trying to picture you at, how does this work? What do you actually do?
So like I said, I work with mostly copper and silver at the moment. So I have, copper sheets and wire. And I found that I really enjoy piercing or sawing with a handsaw. So all of my work so far is hand cut out. And you'll see if you look on my Instagram page, there's, leaf shapes that I like to cut out around all of the, ridges and things like that. I do understand that would be a challenge to replicate in large quantity because it takes a long time to cut things out by hand, even though I do enjoy that process. So maybe in the future I would, work with some sort of laser cutter, as long as I can still design it myself. Really the joy in making is getting to make it. So there's sort of a struggle with, realizing what needs to be outsourced and done on a manufacturing level versus what I can still continue to make by hand, which I'm not at that point yet, but I know these are things I've talked with Taylor about. because she's a lot more farther along in her career. So yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to see where that goes. But so far, everything is just, cut by hand. I use pliers to bend things. I like to forge with a hammer to put textures on, manually to shape things with different stakes and anvils. So I just really like having the hands-on aspect of it, being able to manipulate metal and other materials by hand and see what happens.
And Taylor, you mentioned Taylor. Taylor Fence is another maker in residence at Creator Square, who is also a metalsmith and a jeweler, and a couple of years ahead of you in terms of her business development. So it sounds like you're kind of interacting and learning things from her. Talk to me a little bit about the benefits of that, or what you've already, like how is that attractive, or how does that actually work in real life for you?
Well, it's always nice, no matter what medium you're working in or whatever level of hobby or professional that you are at with art. It's always nice to interact with other people and get their ideas and experience, because I just, it's always helpful to see what other people have been through. And so I'm seeing, talked with her about talking with local manufacturers or suppliers and how that works, getting to tour some of the facilities around Johnstown that I might be able to collaborate with, and just general inspiration. But yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but let me interrupt you and slow you down.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the places that you've been able to visit.
So I've visited the Center for Metal Arts, which is a blacksmith studio in Johnstown that's located in an old foundry. It's very cool. Got to see all their the equipment that was once used to produce, I believe, steel here in Johnstown. And I'm also interested in blacksmithing and steel work, so I would like to incorporate that more into my work in the future. So I've talked with Taylor and some other folks, other blacksmiths, about making a small forge for myself and making tools. That's another fun thing about metal work, is that you often end up making your own tools because you need specialized tools to work with metal, and you work with metal, so you make tools out of metal. So it's a whole, it's very involved, and I love all that. But I've also visited Bottle Works, the art center, got a tour of their facilities and talked with Matt and Melody there about what they do and what they offer. And I might end up coming up with a workshop idea to host there at some point, and that would be really fun. So
sounds great. What's it like living in Johnstown?
It's pretty nice. It's a lot quieter than Pittsburgh. The air quality is much clearer, which is nice. Yeah, it feels a lot like Pittsburgh, just on a much smaller scale. So yeah. I quite like it, and I like Pittsburgh. So it's nice to still be in, Western Pennsylvania area. And I don't know, I like this area of the country. I've lived in a few other places, and this is a good spot.
Well, it's a pretty bold thing that you've done, to decide to sort of pick up and leave, reboot your life in a way, reboot your career in a way. I mean, in a big way.
Yeah.
Not for the faint of heart, I guess, but can you talk a little bit about what led up to that decision? Or because I think a lot of us think about doing things like that, and frankly, there's a lot of fear of the unknown, right? So, I mean, it's really cool that you decided to do that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I guess.
Did you know you were such a badass when you when you did this?
Yeah, I think so. No, I don't know. I don't know. I like to kind of make spontaneous big decisions. And I haven't done that in a while. So I was kind of just ready to go. Like I said, I had quit my job of 12 years in 2019. And that was sort of like the first step. And I faltered a little bit. And then COVID last year, I think really inspired me even more to just be like, this is it. Like something could happen tomorrow. So like, I want to do this. I'm going to take this opportunity. And I was feeling like I didn't really have a clear goal in mind where I was. And so then when this opportunity came up, I was like, all right, then I'm going to just change everything. I've, moved to different cities and places in the past. And I've liked to travel quite a lot. And I always like to travel by myself or with one or two friends. So I don't know, I've always just been interested in seeing new places and trying new things. And I get bored if I'm stagnant. So I was getting really bored at that point. So it was just time to go.
That's great. So if you were talking, which you might be here, if you were talking to somebody who was thinking of doing something like this, what kind of advice would you give them?
Let's see.
If looking back on yourself a couple of years ago, maybe, or something.
I would definitely look for classes locally, like workshops. I found once I started taking workshops, I realized that there were quite a lot of places that offered workshops.
Yeah.
And I had never realized that before. I've always been into art all my life, and I just kind of assumed that I wouldn't be able to do it as a career, especially since I didn't go to school for art specifically. And I'd looked into, like, should I go back to school? And whenever I did that, just the tuition costs made me go, absolutely not. But you don't have to go to a 2 or 4 year school to be an artist. And I always knew that in the back of my head, but I just didn't know what to do. But back in 2017, I had just out of curiosity looked up blacksmithing classes in Pittsburgh or Western Pennsylvania, and Touchstone Center for Crafts is what came up. They're a craft school in Farmington, which is just about an hour and a half south of Pittsburgh. And they have a whole forge, and they offer blacksmithing classes as well as small metals, which is jewelry, things like copper and silver. And so I took a class there and I immediately loved it. They have week-long and weekend classes, so it's not a big commitment as far as time. You just take a couple days off and go and spend the week at a camp, and it's really fun. So, and then once I took that, I realized there was Pittsburgh Center for the Arts and Contemporary Craft and Sweetwater Center for the Arts in Sewickley, Pennsylvania. And so there's just, I didn't realize how many places offered short art workshops, and you can really learn a whole lot in just a day or two. And I think that's even more valuable than going to a full-time school, because it's so much more cost effective. And especially for artists, like, artists tend not to have a lot of extra money to spare. So these workshops are really nice because you just get a concentrated lesson on a certain thing, and then you can take all the materials that you got from that class and just immediately start incorporating it into your own art. So I really think that was one of the most valuable things that I discovered. And then once you start doing that, you meet people and you get more connections, and you discover more opportunities. And that's why I'm here right now, because the director of Touchstone Center for Crafts told me about this while I was there as a resident in May.
Yeah, and we're very, very grateful to Lindsay Gates and Touchstone for sending you on our way. And we hope to see more folks from Touchstone and from other places around the country. So one of the things that occurs to me is that the fact that you didn't study art formally, I think a lot of folks are probably thinking, well, I didn't study art. I wasn't an art major in college, or I didn't go to college. How can I take classes, let alone start a business in the arts? And so it's really great to hear you tell your story and sort of your journey from from having a business life to being an artist and a maker in a few years in that process. And you talked about the economic challenges, and I'd love it if you could talk a little bit about the creative challenges. So I'll just share a little bit about my life. I'm a professional architect, and studied architecture a long time ago. But when I was an undergraduate, I was a major in art too. I was a double major in art and architecture. And I really didn't think that it was quote unquote practical to have a career in the arts. I just couldn't figure out how I could actually earn a living from this. But over the years, I've sort of reconnected with my, the artist inside me, which is really probably, a big part of who I am and how I approach my life and my professional work in architecture. And so started painting very seriously the last couple of years, and especially during COVID, it's become a daily practice since about last March. But I know that one of the things that is most difficult is the sort of not really the isolation of being a maker or being an artist, but sort of the isolation of let's say not knowing when your work is done, or if this is a good direction to go in, or should I do more of these, or how should I change this? And how do you go about like making those kinds of decisions? Or do you show things to people, or what's going on inside you when you finish a work or in the middle of a work? Because I know that as an artist myself, I'm having these conversations all the time, and half the time I'm afraid to quote unquote ruin what I've done. Half the time I'm not sure when done is done, right? When is the work done? And I think this is a perennial problem for makers and artists too. But then also sort of like, is this a good direction? How can what direction should I take my work in? Can you talk a little bit about, I'm maybe being presumptuous. Do you have those kinds of thoughts too?
Oh yeah. I wouldn't say that I have like a single focus or anything as far as art or creative stuff goes. Like I said, I've always liked to make art my entire life, and that mostly was in the form of drawing and painting growing up. And photography, like I studied that in college. So that was all 2D, flat art. And I've been working with that for so long that, I always kind of in the back of my mind wanted to be an artist, but I couldn't even fathom like what that meant. And so just starting in a new medium is really what helped, because, drawing and painting today and photography are totally different landscapes than they were even 10 or 20 years ago. That was something that was interesting and frustrating when I graduated, because I was into photography, but that was when cell phone cameras were starting to get really good or decent. And so there's suddenly a lot more people who can create this art that you used to think was very personal and unique. That's something that only you could do.
Yeah.
And so it became difficult to feel like I could even join that field, especially with drawing and like digital art, because people in high school are like amazing digital artists now because they've just had that technology at their fingertips for a lot longer than I have. So once I just randomly started taking a new medium, I felt so much inspiration again, and even incorporating elements of 2D art into what I'm making, such as like the leaf prints, because I still sort of by default think in that way. So when I get stuck, it just really helps to look up something new, take a little class, or talk with somebody, especially somebody who doesn't work in the same way that I do, because then you just see a new perspective on how to solve a problem, and you get suggestion that you would never have thought of on your own. So just really surrounding yourself with other people who like to make things, or taking a class. And again, it can be just like a one-day thing. I think really helps just sort of reset when you get stuck. But yeah, as far as like the bigger picture of like, when do you stop? I don't know. I tend to overwork things. So that is a difficult thing to just know when to be like, okay, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, there's no instruction manual, and you're making unique things. So there's no right and wrong in this, of course. We were traveling over the Labor Day weekend and visiting friends, and my wife Petra and I, and we were visiting our friends who were both also artists. And so we decided on the second day of our visit that we would spend the morning kind of doing little art presentations to each other and giving each other critiques or kind of discussions. And it was really interesting. And but also kind of like, you don't know what people are going to tell you, and
yeah,
it can be very inspiring and kind of challenging, and it sort of stirs things up in a good way. So having those conversations, and for you and Taylor and others at Creator Square to be able to sort of be a studio away or a floor away from each other working can help with those kinds of conversations, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you've been talking about your artistic practice, and we have a bunch of technology at Creator Square, and we're bringing in more. One of the things I think that's on its way is a metal laser cutter, which might be somewhat transformative for you in terms of enabling you to have multiples of the same thing cut out of metal. But maybe you can talk a little bit, if you've thought about how you want to extend your work and transform it in terms of, making it more available to people, and making it maybe a little bit more, able for you to produce enough to live on.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that better. But how do you build this one-off kind of artistic practice into a business? Do you have ideas of how you want to take that, or what direction you want to go?
Not a whole lot at this point. That's a little bit farther down the road than I'm at this point. But yeah, I mean, I like to experiment with new things. So I think it would be fun to see what a laser cutter could do. Because I'm sure that would just, once you get to use the new tool, then you start to get ideas of how you can use it, at least for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
that's a little bit, I don't
3D printers and other things. Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, that and casting, definitely. I'm interested in casting, and so I know that you can 3D print wax models to send off to be cast in metal. And so I've only done hand carving wax and casting just once in a class. So that's something I would definitely like to learn a little more. I'm less enthusiastic about having to like sit at a computer to design something in CAD, but maybe it'll be not so bad once I get to that point.
That's right. And we will soon have some casting equipment under roof too, for you to experiment with. Yeah. So maybe as we wrap things up, we can talk a little bit about sort of the bigger picture, zoom back out again. I did want to tell everyone that on September 30th, between 6 and 10 p.m., Creator Square will be part of the first annual Johnstown Cultural Crawl, and a number of different organizations really focused around downtown Johnstown, especially on Gazebo Place, where we're located, will be open to the public and part of this 4-hour crawl. And that evening between 6 and 10, we will have our studios open. We'll have volunteers on hand to lead people through the different studios. And also you and Taylor have offered to have open studios yourselves and talk to folks and show them your work in person. So I'd like to make sure that everybody here knows that that is happening, and tell their friends, and come downtown to downtown Johnstown on September 30th and check out Creator Square. I'll be there. I'll be downstairs welcoming people, talking about our mission, taking down emails for people who might be interested in receiving more information or might be interested in helping us out, or even participating as a maker. I will also be playing music. I'm a record collector, and I think I'm going to bring my turntables down and some speakers and play some music just to create a different atmosphere downstairs. So V, I'll give you the last word. What kind of things do you want to close with this evening? Do you have any thoughts that I know, not to put you on the spot there. Anything else you want to add, or anything else you'd want to say to people who are thinking about doing something like what you've done?
I would say go for it. I really do believe, especially now, with everything that's happened in the past 2 years, it really is like important to not delay the things that you really want to do in life. Don't keep putting them off forever and ever and ever, because eventually you just won't ever get the chance. And if you think you don't have if you think you can't, I mean, there's a way to insert it into your life. You just have to figure out where to fit it. And again, like I said, for me personally, taking a short class was just all I needed to finally realize that this is possible. You don't have to go to a 4-year school. It doesn't have to take a huge monetary investment. And it doesn't even have to take like expensive materials. Like you can find scraps, like talking about metal specifically, like I use a lot of scraps from copper. So you really, and I think having those kinds of limitations can help inspire you as well. So don't be intimidated by not having anything, I guess, because if you just look around a little bit, there actually is quite a lot of resources available to get started on anything.
That's fantastic. And I see Terry Campbell is here, which is great. Terry, would you mind introducing yourself? And did you have any questions or comments about our discussion?
Yes. V, thank you very much for doing this. I'm Terry Campbell from Catalyst Connection. Perhaps Taylor has mentioned us to you. And yeah, I think it would be really good to just kind of get you in the loop on some of the things that we're doing and the supports that we're able to provide to manufacturers. In particular, we have an initiative that's going to be starting in the very near future called Maker to Manufacturer, to help small manufacturers or folks who are just starting out and just like you. So, I'm curious, Paul had previously asked about what challenges you're facing, and I'm not too sure we, got down to anything specific, and I also know that it's difficult that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But, is there something specific, or are there particular things, especially around building a business? Are there things that you're looking for, or resources, or needs that you haven't found the solution to, or the information to help you get past that hurdle?
It's funny because I feel like so many of my current roadblocks are just me needing time, to get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Paul mentioned, I am talking with a business coach, and that's very helpful because, I'm registering a business and dealing with like taxes and budgeting and how you balance just your personal finances with a business finance that I don't know really at this point. So that's something that I need to learn. How to keep all that separate. I don't know if you can hear it, but my cat is meowing, so I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think, Paul, I'm glad you mentioned that September 30th. I'll look into that, and I would love to come by meet folks in person because we've done so many virtual meetings here recently. So thank you for that. And also, if you'd like us to get that word out and help to spread it to others, if you have any information that we could put in our e-newsletter, we'd be happy to do that to spread the word on that.
I will send you, thank you for that, Terry, and thank you for joining us this evening. Catalyst Connection is an incredible organization. Folks should look you up online, and especially folks who have small businesses in Western Pennsylvania specifically. Yeah, I have a press release that I will send you
Okay.
to spread around, and we'll be posting it on our website and on our Instagram
Great.
probably starting tomorrow. So I'll get that out to you, Terry.
Great.
And I know that Taylor is already working with you on some things, and she and I are both going to be presenting as part of this new educational initiative. So
I saw that. Yeah.
There'll be more exciting things coming out of Catalyst Connection and Creator Square working together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And V, one of the things that Taylor has learned pretty quickly is that you can spin your wheel and spend a lot of time looking for something. And sometimes if you just, reach out to others and ask them, they may already have the answer, or they may already know who you need to call. So certainly that's one of the things that we try to do in sharing resources and pointing people in the right direction, or even taking the time to do a little bit of the digging and the researching to find the answer for you. So yeah, definitely connect with us, get on our email list, and stay tuned for all of the things to come with Maker to Manufacture.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Terry, for joining us. And
Sure.
Thank you, V, for joining us as well, and for sort of introducing us to your work and what's behind it, the background and everything. And I, certainly, I'll just say this. I've said this to you a couple times, but I wish you the best of luck, and I'm really excited to see how your work and your career develops in the next couple months, especially while you're working with Creator Square. So with that, we'll say good night. We're going to post this in a number of different places. I think that Taylor has been posting this on YouTube or something, as well as Instagram. So it'll be available to the public. We'll make sure that this is that folks know where to find this if they are looking for it, and tell your friends. Alrighty, thanks so much. Any other information people are looking for, again, go to the website creatorsquarejohnstown.com, or go to our Instagram, which is Creator Square Johnstown. Also go to V's Instagram, which is Eyes Like Thieves, at Eyes Like Thieves, right?
Yes.
Yes. And stay tuned for more exciting things coming out of the Catalyst Connection as well. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Bye.